Hello, everyone. Hi, and thank you for joining us today on the fourth and last session on our series GenAI for software developers. My name is Moria, and I'm the regional Reactor PM at the Microsoft. Work together on this series with Yarden Dor and Adi Stein, who are also here today with us. For those of you who are new to the Reactor is a program by Microsoft. We have regional communities around the world where we allow developers and startups to meet, learn, and connect. We have physical locations in different cities, as well as our program is online, and you can find our events not just in person but online every day. Actually, if you scan out the QR code on the screen, you will reach our website and you can find different events offered to you every day in different time zones where you can join from wherever you are. So Microsoft Reactor uses a lot Microsoft Learn platform. It's a free learning platform by Microsoft for developers and organization, offer you access to different certifications and learning paths, on-demand events, and really every technology you want to learn about. You can choose the different level that you want to take a course. If it's a beginner course, if it's an advanced course, you can choose your technology, the length of the learning path that you want to take, from 30 minutes to a couple of hours, and complete a learning path and a course just free on your own from home or from everywhere you want by yourself. So I highly recommend you to check Microsoft Learn. If you scan the QR code now, you will reach Microsoft Learn. This is an example of how a module looks like there. So really easy to follow. It breaks out each module to different parts, where it tells you how many minutes it takes you to roughly complete each part. Very friendly, very easygoing. So I really recommend you to check it out if you haven't so far. Microsoft Learn also offer the AI Hub. The AI Hub is actually gathers all the technologies relevant for AI. And you can answer a few questions, and it will give you a tailored training recommendation just for you, for your needs. So the AI Learning Hub is super relevant, of course, for today's series and for today's session. You can visit the AI Learn. If you scan the QR code on the screen, you will reach this page directly. I will also share all the links in the chat, so don't worry if you missed anything here. Back to today's session. So today's the last one again, and the generative AI software developers. Don't worry if you missed any of the previous events. All of the sessions were recorded and available on demand on our YouTube channel. You can also scan the QR code on the screen, and you will reach all the recordings on the series page on our website. So the three previous ones were amazing, amazing sessions. You can see we had a couple of hundreds of thousands views also for these sessions, and today's session is not going to be any less than that, so stay tuned, and we are going to start shortly. Another series I wanted to tell you about is Spotlight on Application Innovation and AI. It's another series we are running in the Reactor now. We just had the third session yesterday, and next week we are going to have the fourth session on AKS. If you're interested in this series, you can scan the QR code or visit our website and look for the Spotlight on Application Innovation in AI series, and you can register for the upcoming events there. So this is a QR again to register to our newsletter, which you will get once a month, and it will tell you about all the upcoming events we have at the Reactor for next month. We're also on Meetup, Facebook, and YouTube, so you can follow us there if you're not following us so far. Take a second, please, to read the Microsoft Code of Conduct. So Microsoft is dedicated to empower every person and every organization in the planet to achieve more. We are following Microsoft Code of Conduct, of course, also an online event. Please take a minute to read the Code of Conduct, and remember to be friendly, patient, and respectful to others in the chat. So without further ado, I'm going to present to you today's speaker, Ori Bar-Ilan. Ori is a senior software engineer here in the R&D Center in Microsoft. He's going to talk to you about applied Gen AI for mere mortals using LangChain. Hope you enjoyed this session. I'm just going to remind you that the session is recorded and it will be available on the YouTube channel. And you can use the chat box to ask any questions you have for Ori, and we will try to answer them if possible through the session. And when Ori will take a break or at the end of the session, but please make it, feel free to share your questions. And that's it from my end. Enjoy, and Ori, over to you.
Hey, so thanks, Maria, and thank you also, Yarden and Dor, for hosting this. I don't see the chat, so feel free to drop an hello or something just so we have a pulse check. You can write me down the AI stack you're working on. Maybe we'll reference it throughout the chat, throughout the session. So it's awesome to be here. I'll share a deck and I'll share what we're gonna do today. 1 second, let's share the screen. Um, nice, okay. So what we're gonna cover today is a bit of an introduction to apply generative AI. So basically, how you can hack your way into like in a low world style program using LLMs. I want to show how simple it is. It's like any hacking any other simple app. We can start very simple, even though this area may seem a bit overwhelming at first. And I will also share how complex it can get to later on. So um, feel free to stop me with questions if you have anything. I'll try to follow the chat, and let's get going. So first of all, I'm Ori Barilan, like Maria said. I'm working in the Microsoft Education team. So we're developing learning tools and technologies for anything from kindergarten to higher education. It's very awesome, and we're working very closely with Azure OpenAI. We build let's say a lot of smart products, smart features, smart like in terms of they have AI embedded into the experience. One thing we released not so long ago was actually a tool that generates paragraphs for students to train or exercise reading, help with reading English. So the tool exists, but in my team we created the content for the student to read and made it relevant for the grade level, etc. So we'll be showing how to build such experiences here today. So I'll start with what you're gonna get exactly. Like I talk with in broad words, but let's say very specific now. So we talk about the capabilities of generative AI. What can you do with it? Then I'll talk about availability, how you can grab a model, let's say, and execute it. Then we'll talk a bit about technology, the different tools you can use, and methodology. We'll pick a few tools from and actually show how it can be, what's the method of using them. And after this, generative AI will become your BFF. You'll be able to hack your programs very easily and very fast. In a few hours, you can have a very cool app working on your machine, and then you can take it from there, of course. What it's not. So we're not gonna do a deep dive, and it's not a session about generative AI for production. I will touch about the complexities of getting this into a production system at scale, but we can do all of this in an hour. So the goal here is actually to give you the confidence to start on this journey, to kick off this journey, and you can explore the next steps after that. So, what's generative AI? Is probably the first thing we should start with. So, generative AI is a type of artificial intelligence that learns from existing data to create new, similar content, such as generating images, text, or music. this is a quote I took from generative AI, yeah, like ChatGPT or Copilot Chat. Basically, you can see it's a very simple definition that shows anything we generate, any content we generate, any tool that generates content automatically, we can call it generative AI. We're not gonna deep dive into like the scientific terms behind the scene, but this is the simple term when we call generative AI. What do we mean? It's not all. Everything doesn't mean text as an input and text as an output. Okay, so the agenda for today is gonna be, maybe I'll try to convince you that you should care. This is the first step. Hopefully, you will stick around to hear what you can do with it, and then how you can do it. We'll have a live demo, a short live demo, and then I'll give you some quick tips and some stuff you can take on your backpack to this journey on your own after this session, links and some tips, etc. For your own application after this session. So let's start. Why you should care. So users care. This is the main reason, I think. You can see this nice chart saying showcasing that ChatGPT was fastest product to date, reaching 100 million users. Actually, just in 2 months. This is amazing. TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, amazing. Other apps are much like took much longer for reaching that scale. So there is a big hype around this. User want this, user like interacting with it. So let's give them what they want. The second thing I really like to I really think is strong is actually this tool makes every user a power user. So it sits well also with the mission of Microsoft that we want to empower every user in the planet to achieve more. So every user, because everyone can just write text or record their voice, and which will dictate text, and it makes them into a power user because just with the text interface, or let's say natural language interface, they can create really powerful stuff. And I'll show an example. So this is just an Excel sheet that I downloaded online. You can just search for it online, the financial sample from Microsoft, and it's an Excel with like a lot of financial data. I just opened it, looked at the Copilot, and there was a button with a show data insights. I clicked it, and then it showed me this nice chart. I clicked the add a new sheet to it, and I actually got like a pivot table showing this data. And this is amazing to me, especially because my mom, she's very like she doesn't do well with technology. Let's say it at least. Hey, mom, I know you're not here, so I feel free to say whatever I want. But she likes using Excel. Not because of the power of Excel, actually, just because she likes using it as a table. Even like tables outside Excel is too complicated for her. So she likes the pre-made table, putting everything in the cells, and that's it. She doesn't use any Excel function or anything. But now she can actually just write natural language and actually get some insights or some operation on that data just using natural language, and suddenly she becomes a power user. So that is amazing. Okay, so I hope you're motivated now and you're pumped and you really want to get going. So what you can do. So here we'll start covering the very basic and most common capabilities of generative AI models, um, just to make sure we're all aligned on what they can do. So I'll start with just generative AI models. So there are a lot of platforms where you can pull models off, but I want to show 3 in this session. So I'll go from left to right. So leftmost is Hugging Face, which is the biggest repository. It has more than 500,000 models, I think, hosted there. It has also data sets, and it's a collaboration space as well, and they have leaderboards of models competing against one another. So that's a great, and everything is open source, so that's a great place to get started, to read more about models, see documentation, see the community. Then moving on the right, you have OpenAI. which is a company that does very it's very like on the news. Everyone probably knows it, and they have very strong models for generative AI, and they also are hosted on Azure, so you can also use your existing Azure subscription and for using OpenAI. You can just search for it in Azure OpenAI. So that's another way to pull models via APIs. And on the right, you can see Olama, which is a really cool tool for hosting models locally and or let's say manually. We can do it locally. You can do it on your remote machine. You can do it manually on your cloud provider. So that's a really cool tool, and we'll be using both Azure OpenAI and Olama in the demo later on. So now I know that where can I get models, but what can I do with those models? So here are 5 basic capabilities of generative AI models. So completion. So let's start with completion. There are, I'll just wrote down a couple of examples here for completion models. So GPT 3.5 and GPT 4 are done by OpenAI, and we also have Llama 2 done by Meta, and it's open source, and it has also a lot of variants. If you look at Hugging Face, for example, and both of them are can be used. Both of these models, or actually there are 3 models here. They can be used for completion experiences. So usually when there's like I'm in an auditorium and I ask people what's an example for a completion, I hear it's a chat. So I'm not sure if anyone like wants to jump in ahead, but feel free. So a good completion example, in my opinion, is GitHub Copilot. Uh, it's amazing. You can also see completions in email clients, etc. But this we love it because we're developers, so this is like something we meet every day, all day long. So here's just a Python script I started like writing down in VS Code. I wrote import math. I just wrote class, and then you can see this autocomplete by Copilot. Just trying. It knows that I imported math, so it thinks maybe a circle is a good recommendation. Let's say I write CA, then maybe it will switch over to a calculator implementation. And as the more information it has, the more text or the more code I have in the context, the more accurate the recommendation will be. So it's a very awesome implementation for completion. Moving over to chat. So actually we have the same models underneath. Sometimes the models are trained a bit differently, so it's a variance of the same core model, trained a bit differently with some instructions, also human in the loop as a labelers. We're not going to get into that, but what's important to take here that you can use similar models, or let's even say the same models for implementing chat experiences. So for chat, this is like very two common applications. ChatGPT, which we already mentioned before, you can live chat with you can have a chat with ChatGPT, and Copilot chat, you can have a very similar chat experience. Also, you can Copilot lets you also do some nice configuration if you want things to be a bit more factual or a bit more creative. It has some nice toggles there in the experience, and they're both really great chat implementations. Moving over to the third one. So the third capability is retrieval. Retrieval is basically search. You can imagine it as search if the word retrieval doesn't mean a lot to you. And underneath retrievals, there are models that are the class model. The model class is called embeddings. Embeddings is when machines can really process text, so they need to process numbers. So for that, embeddings is encoding those numbers into text, creating a vector of numbers that represents this text semantically, and then we can put those vectors in a vector store, some database that is specialized for storing vectors, and then we can retrieve based on similarity, on again semantic similarity, and this can create really powerful really powerful search experiences. So you can implement your search engine according on your doc, and you can implement maybe retrievals on your code base, and you can implement retrieval, I don't know, on your security sheet, like a 40-page, a 40-page, sorry, I don't know, health insurance, and you want to know like if something is covered or not, you can implement that as well. So embeddings are a class of models that just know how to encode the text into a vector of numbers, and then we usually use those vector stores on top of that. So I'm sorry. So there's all this is you can find embeddings in all of the platforms that I mentioned before, embeddings models, and use them. So I'll give an example here. This is an example of what happened if I didn't use an embedding, just to chat, like let's say GPT 3.5. So I create, this is my domain, education. So I gave an example from the domain, a bot that helps you in school or in the university, let's say. So a student comes and says, what follow-up course should I take? And the bot really can't really tell, right? Like its database is only, let's say if it's GPT-4, I think, then it's trained until April 2023. If it's 3.5, maybe it's a bit earlier than that. But anyway, it's not up to date. It can't really recommend anything in 2024. So using retrieval is exactly solving this problem, where we can give up-to-date knowledge of the world to our application. So behind the scenes, I can do like a semantic search across all of the syllabus. I am using the chat model to understand the semantics, and then I can pull in the specific recommendation. So this is a very high level example, waving hands, on what you can do with chat and retrieval. Okay, moving on. Image generation. DALL-E is like a very famous example of a model that generates images. Now, don't be confused with the other way around. We're talking about text to image. Image to text is a different class. It's usually done by multimodal models, but we're not gonna cover that today. So this is text to image. I gave another example, which is you after this session, if you want to go that way, or from one application you would be able to implement very easily is an application that, as a writer, I'm giving you the content for each of my pages, and you generate a nice image for that page in my book, and you can do specific stuff for kids book, for I don't know, nonfiction stuff, etc. So uh, so that's another really cool application. Last ability that we'll cover here today is speech. Speech is basically an umbrella for text-to-speech and speech-to-text. Both of the examples here are offered by Azure OpenAI, but and OpenAI in general as well. But you can find other models as well, of course, in Hugging Face, like I mentioned before. Um, and that's it. This is I won't go into length about this. But I want to show you just a quick example. So a lot of the time when I talk with people about speech, or like speech to text and text to speech models, they are not really sure what's a cool domain for, like what's a cool app they can do, they can who that this will power, or how they can improve their product using these models. So basically, I always say think accessibility. This is like one very nice form where this is almost always applicable. Um, so if user interact with text, or whether they input text or they read text from an application, you can just as easily give them the option to dictate using this, or the option to read aloud some text that you have there, and you can. This is like great to accessible applications that you can embed into your apps today. Okay, so that was what you can do, and you can choose for whatever capability you want. And after this session, I hope that you will feel empowered to create your own application. I'll give you the tools that you need for doing that, to actually use and create an application based on one of those capabilities, or more than one. Okay, so let's move forward. So how can you do it? So this is an example from Hugging Face. So I mentioned before, Hugging Face is a platform for AI models. It's the biggest repository, I believe, but it's a huge repository, definitely, for AI models. And here is me just going into like a page, and you can see on the right, highlighted like with the circle, um, is a playground. Like they actually have like a try out this model experience where you just type whatever you want, you click compute, and then you get, in this case, it's a completion. Other models have also chat experience, and you can play around with it, right? Like see what it will look like and how models differentiate one from another. I always like to troll models and like use this sentence of how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck would chuck, and then give them to complete and see. And every model says something very different. It's very interesting. This one did something very cool that I wanted to capture. It's okay, of course, said like completed my question with like a wood and a question mark, great. And then he says, here's a little something to think about, which is like snarky. I love it. I love it. It was really awesome. So this is like playing with one model, and you can try out a lot of different ones. So that's really really cool. And I want to show you the same playground experience, but in Azure OpenAI as well. So Azure OpenAI has a bit more power to it. But you can interact with your own hosted model, your like deployed model. So here I have a deployed model, GPT 3.5 Turbo, and I can actually play around with my own deployment. This is the terminology for Azure OpenAI. I wrote down the same sentence, clicked generate to trigger a completion, and then you can see again the obvious completion would be wood, but then you can see a different follow-up. Though I wouldn't even try to read it. I actually didn't know this is the answer to the question. I had no idea it exists. But then I looked around online, and I saw that actually it's a common thing. Okay, so that's very cool, right? Like you see, different models do something different. The previous one maybe showed a bit more character, and this one is a bit more accurate according to like the what's common in the world, given that the answer. So very interesting. But here you can also see there's a lot of controls on the right. You can see the max length, the max tokens. We didn't discuss tokens yet, but a lot of controls where I can actually define like nitpick the experience that I want, and those controls are used by developers when they interact with LLM programmatically, and it's very cool that they put it in the UI as well. And of course, on the left you can see you can also pick data integration, chat, and assistants, and etc. Okay, then they give something very cool on top of that. You can see this view code button. I clicked it. I just copied pasted into VS Code, so you can see like a bit of coloring nicer. The coloring be a bit nicer, and you can see it actually generated the exact piece of code I need to execute it the same manner I did in the UI. It even copied the prompt, and all of the controls that I configured. The only thing I need to do here is just putting the API key in my environment variable, and that's it. I'm ready to go. And this is very cool because I can just wrap it up and build like a very very simple experience around this completion. And it's a very cool thing to get you started really really fast. So if you're using Azure OpenAI, this is another way you can move forward. Okay, so it's almost demo time. I have a few slides before we will kick off the demo. I want to showcase the technologies that we'll be using today in the demo. So we will be using Python. I hope you all know and love Python, and if not, maybe I'll convince you to love it today. And then we'll use two different models using two different platforms. One is Olama hosted locally on my machine, and the other one is Azure OpenAI. Um, then we'll use a LangChain, which we didn't cover yet, but it's the next slide, so bear with me. It's the library we will use in order to interact with LLMs. And then lastly, this is just the models that we're using. So the model I'll be hosting locally it's called Orca Mini. 3B stands for 3 billion parameters. And it's a variant of OpenLlama, which is a variant of Llama, which I explained before. Everything is open source, so there's a lot of variants here. And I didn't write it down, but on Azure OpenAI, we will be using GPT 3.5. Okay, so I'll owe you a bit of more context, and then we'll jump into the demo. So a bit of LangChain about LangChain. So if you've been to the previous session, you heard about semantic kernel, which is awesome, and I want to show you another awesome library, which is LangChain. And LangChain has a very unique approach to use LLMs, which I want to show here today. So they call it model IO, the model output chain. So first of all, you have the input, which is basically templates which you can input into your model. Those can be a lot of different types of inputs. It can be chat. It can be some template that you create manually. You can also embed parameters prematurely or wait until the ones that you have are waiting only on the trigger by the user. Um, so those are a few examples, and I'll show some integrations in a minute where you can see the real power of LangChain. Then moving over to the purple part, the predict. So those are the models. LangChain differentiate between LLMs and chat models. Basically, when they say LLMs, it's basically completion. Chat models is everything else. Um, and then we have the parsers. So if you're just one text, like you're writing a chat app, maybe you don't need a parser. Maybe free text is okay. But in most applications, we need actually some structure to the output. So LangChain supports that heavily. They have a JSON parser and a Pydantic parser. And what happens if the structure isn't exactly like we wanted? So we don't want things to break. So they have also stuff that can auto fix those uh, those structures for us, and even use LLMs to help us fix those when it's not a clear case. Let's say it's not a casing issue. If it's a casing issue, we can easily automate it. But if it's not a casing issue, maybe stuff are not really formatted in the way I wanted, and you need some understanding of the content in order to solve it, then we can actually use an LLM in order to reformat the output. So this is like a chain, a very, very basic one. And I want to show you the integrations, which is a really powerful part of LangChain. So LangChain has a very rich community. And these are just like a handful of examples I picked, which I think are very common and many of us can relate to. So input, you can also load the Word documents, Dropbox files, Azure Blob, S3, Telegram, messages, a GitHub repository. So you can hook into a lot of stuff as input very, very easily. And in the models, you can plug and play many different models. I wrote here just four like options. You can use Azure OpenAI, you can use OpenAI directly, you can use OLAMA, you can use Hacking Face, and there are a lot of other stuff as well that you can use. There are many companies that create AI models, and you can integrate them like in a plug and play manner. It's very easy, and we'll showcase that as well in the demo. Lastly, on the par side, so just a few examples. You can ask it to output the JSON, a CSV, YAML, and or even a Pydantic object. So I don't even need to do the transformation from a JSON to a Pydantic object myself. It's very, very easy. Okay, cool. You can look online in their documentation. They have more than 700 integration. Everything you can name, they have. It's very awesome. One second, I need to blow my nose.
Ori, so far we had a great session. By the way, I'm following here and we had some questions. So I'm thinking maybe before we are moving to the next part, otherwise it will be hard to track where the questions are from. So would it be okay to maybe pick on 2, 3 questions and then before we go ahead to the demo part?
Yeah, let's do it, of course.
So the one question, the latest actually interesting, is how a LangChain is actually different from semantic kernel.
Okay, so I'll touch on the very obvious difference. which is the supported languages. We'll cover it in a future slide after the demo. They actually support different languages except for Python, which is a common language for both of them. But then LangChain is in also supports JavaScript. They also have a JavaScript library, and semantic kernel as C Sharp and Java, and of course Python, like I said, libraries. So those are like the obvious differences. And technically they differentiate in approach. I don't want to cover here the semantic kernel approach, but this is I have I think in 2 slides I have something like the complete approach done by LangChain. And I think the best thing is just to hack with both, to try out both and see what you relate to. Also, of course, they have different communities, so maybe one library like this library LangChain is very strong about integrations. So if you need to do a lot of different integrations, it will save you time. um, so I think those are like the two common differences. So basically, you only need to decide between the two only if you actually use Python, and then I think it's a matter of taste when what you're using. Mostly, like you can just try out both of them. Both are really great, by the way. But you can try out both of them and see yourself. It's a subtlety of the APIs, I would say. But if it's not Python, then you have to choose either way because they are implemented in different languages.
We also had the first session in this series where Moai was talking about how to create the copilot using semantic kernel, and he also explained a bit about that at the beginning. So, Pratap, you can also view the recording of the first session of the series. We have a question, but it was about 20 minutes ago, so I'm not sure if you will try to allocate where was it relevant about the difference between the three that you
Yeah, the
can't
three
use
platforms.
OpenAI. Do you?
Yeah. Yeah, okay, sure. So let's take it. Yeah, no problem. So that's correct. But actually, OpenAI sometimes releases models as open source. So, for example, you can find GPT-2 in Hugging Face. So, and then you can of course use it locally. So, but yeah, the ones I showed, GPT 3.5 and 3PT and GPT 4, can be hosted locally. And I'll actually show what's also good about them, that they are hosted remotely in the demo. But yeah, this is correct until this point that I mentioned with the GPT-2. And I also expect them to share other open source models in the future, but it will probably always be a leg behind what they are offering as a service, of course.
Okay, I think we can go ahead with the demo. We have more questions, but we will
Sure.
a general question. We can also answer that after the demo part. So.
Okay, great. So I promised you two more slides just before the demo, quickly before the demo. So uh, uh, I forgot the name for whoever asked me about the difference. So this is I want to cover some. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So one thing that I want to cover here is library reliability, let's say, or stability, and this is something that also I experience in my own my own experience. I see that it's different a bit between LangChain and semantic kernel, and I delayed this part of the answer to this slide because I want to show it the numbers, and maybe then you'll have the complete answer. So what I'm showcasing here on the right is Fast API. It's the GitHub Insights for Fast API library. Probably most of you know it. It's one of the most common web frameworks for Python. And on the left is the same like Insights feature, but for the LangChain repository. And you can see the difference in the difference in the numbers. But of course, it's not comparing apples to apples, but you can take some insights out of this. So you can see the difference in order of magnitude, right? Like, so merge pull request 600 versus 20, open pull request 150 versus 30, close issues 567 versus 4, new issues 200 versus 4. It's really like these numbers really mean something, right? You can take whatever you understand from them, but they really mean something, and it's very interesting to track it. Below, you can see the trend between both of them. So, of course, Fast API exists a long time, but you can see this sudden peak. So all of these numbers that we're showing, by the way, both GitHub repositories have above 70K GitHub stars. So, and they have rich communities, and they're both like they're really the how do would you say, like the top of the line, the cutting edge of their domain. And you can see that LangChain arrived late to the scene, but actually, like she got this status even though it's a very young, relatively young library. Of course, again, not apples to apples, but I wanted to show this information. I think it's interesting. And now back to the question. I think this actually, like this pace that LangChain is moving on, it's super fast. It's amazing. Like I showed you, the benefit is having like 700 technology integrations. Like it's amazing, really. But also sometimes it slowed me down when suddenly I try to upgrade my package and suddenly stuff broke, whether it was due to a bug or a breaking change. So you will experience such stuff. Of course, it's organically, because this is relatively young with a lot of community, a lot of action is going on. So they move fast, they break things, but they also fix them fast. So it's a matter of taste, like I said before, but now it's a taste of like how much up to date you need to be. But not everything is like I said. This is the silver lining. Just in January, last January, LangChain released the first minor version, so first zero point 0.1 version, where they did a lot of structuring and made a lot of stuff clearer to me as a developer. And they separated the models between the community models, which is really fast paced because of the big community, the rich community. So all of the integrations that are all of the integration sits in a different model, which has its own pace. But the LangChain core and the LangChain model, the both models that are really important in terms of the creating chain and the stability of things, they have their different pace, which is helped a lot in the stability, at least how I experience it. And then also they have these different services which are not covered today, but you can read about them: LangServe and LangSmith, which are tools for deployment and observability outside the library. We will not cover them today here, but so that's it about LangChain. I hope like this, together with what I said on the previous slides, helps a bit differentiate LangChain versus semantic kernel, in your opinion. But I would say, bottom line, if you're using Python and you have the option to choose, try both for size and see what fits your style. So now it's the demo time. What we're gonna do, we're gonna create a nerdoscope, which is a term I coined for this demo, which is a horoscope for nerds. Um, this is what we are. Sorry. So I hope you would enjoy this. So we're gonna use, like I said, LangChain. We're gonna use some prompt templates, two different LLMs, and parsing the output. So let me kick off this demo and show you how simple it is. Okay. So what I'm using here is, by the way, it's VS Code. I'm using a container to host everything. I created an image that has both my code and also hosts an Olama, host a model using Olama. Like I said, it's the Orca Mini model because it has very, it can fit any machine, or not any machine, but even my like dev machine hosts it pretty good. So first of all, I already installed the requirements, so everything is already set up for the demo. If you want to see the, like, if you want to try to actually follow up on this exact demo afterwards, write it down in the chat. And Maria, if someone wants this, I can refer to this repository if someone wants to reference this code later on. So You also have like the dev container definition there, the Docker file, and you can do everything on your own machine. So first of all, I'm just importing the Olama model that I already downloaded before. So I run it. You can see LLM is now populated with actually like a reference to the actual model. Olama again is just serving this model on the machine that I'm now running, like the dev container. Then let's see, like let's do a pulse check. Let's just say hi to our new baby LLM. So I run this, and you can see, let's say, of course, this is like a love demo chaos, but hey, no, it works. Hello, how can I help you today? Nice. Now I want to say something. You can see it took 6 seconds and 200 milliseconds. This is a lot, right? So I'm hosting it locally. These models are intended to run on GPUs on strong machines. Even this Orca Mini is really lightweight, but still it's not so easy for my machine. And I'm to make things as simple as possible for you. If you want to reference this code, I'm actually using CPU to run this model. So everything will take longer in terms of compute, but simpler. And of course, you can then use GPUs to run it, or use a stronger machine hosted somewhere else, or just take it as a service, as we will see later on in the demo. Okay, so now making things a bit more complex. I want to still I'm just approaching the LLM directly. I'm not showing you in this cell another anything LangChain specific. So I'm just creating a query. A query is the simple term for a prompt, which is the fancy term of a query. And I'm just creating this prompt. Please generate a funny horoscope for nerds message for a role. Keep the answer short, 5 sentences max. We all know that LLMs have a tendency to write a lot of text. So I want to say out of the gate, keep it short. And you can see I'm writing the role as a parameter because I want to later maybe take it in as as an argument from a user in, let's say, a command line interface or whatnot. That's it. The last lines 5 and 6 are just to stream it nicely, so we can read along while the answer is created. So hey there, fellow nerd, your day's off to an excellent start with a brainstorming session and a cup of coffee. You're on the right track with your latest project, but just remember to take breaks and not burn yourself out. It keeps on digging. Okay, and if you ever need a good laugh, just try to make time for some video games or watching The Big Bang Theory. Stereotypes, stereotypes, stereotypes. Best wishes. Okay, so we did something very simple, right? But we got a cool prompt, like a cool application out of it already. Now let's start seeing some LangChain action. Okay, so I want to explain a bit about system prompts. What does it mean? And then we can actually use it. So models really tend to work really well, language models, when you give them some context. So you set, it's called setting the scene. Usually you will see that terminology. So I want to set the scene, set the mood, like um, there are a lot of examples online where you can see that you want the LLM to maybe write a cool paragraph or a story. Then you say you are a very famous writer. Maybe you can name drop some a famous persona as well. You are really good at writing novels, whatever, and it really improves the quality of the output. We're not going to talk today about prompt engineering. There are a lot of different practices. Some of them contradict, but it's very, very interesting, this topic, how you can squeeze the best out of your LLM using prompts. So that's a big theory by itself. We can do a whole different session about it, but I have a link for that for you to follow up after the session. It's like one of the big bibles of prompt engineering. It's a GitHub repository, and also they have like a documentation website with tons of really good content. So I encourage you to write there. But let's see what I did here. I just did something very simple, setting the scene. You are a horoscope bot, but that provides a nerdoscope, horoscope for nerds, reading for personas of the tech industry. Given the user role, create a nerdoscope reading that is funny and relatable to the role. Keep the answer short, 5 sentences max. And now you can see I create a chat prompt template, right? And then I give it actually as a system prompt, and I differentiate between this and the user role. If you remember previously, I actually had them both combined as one string. The AI didn't have any idea the what's the context and what's the specific task, and here they are separated, and this helps achieve better results. And then we're gonna see the first chain ever. This is those of you that don't know LangChain, so now you do. This is the first chain that you ever witnessed. You will always remember me for the one that showed you your first chain. So what's a chain here? If you remember, a chain is an input, model, and output. This is like a very basic chain. So here we have the prompt, this is the input, and then what LangChain did, it's called LCEL, LangChain Expression Language. You can read more about it, but basically they overread in pipe, the pipe symbol, and then you can just use that. And next you can do something that consumes a prompt. So in our case, it's an LLM here, which is the obvious example. And then this prompt will be inserted into this LLM. So this is like the flow that we're getting. And we're not going to do anything about the output yet because we're just going to use free text. And this is a chain. Now, if you notice, this chain can be just triggered because it expects some parameters, which I can give it at the exact time that I need to trigger the chain. So this is very cool thing that I can prepare everything ahead of time. It can be I can have a chain at hand in my web service, for example, and then just the input comes from a web request, and I trigger the model with just the parameters. I don't need to re-engineer all of the templates, and there's less work going on during the request. So now I just trigger it. I know the stream API, and then I populate just the role part of it, as you can see here. Again, this is just using stream, so we're easy. It's nicer on the eyes when we execute. Okay, well, that was super fast. Okay, so, sorry, no, it jumped here. Single encoding formatting. Okay, of course something will happen here. Okay, I deleted this accident. No. What did I do? What did I do? Single encoded in format string. What happened here? Nothing single about this. Let's see. Okay, it's very weird. Let's just see. What's the issue here? Okay. Something is wrong with this. For some reason, it doesn't recognize that this is very weird here. Okay. I'm sorry for technical, but this is like the live stream chaos, of course. Yeah, nothing. Unsupported template format. How come it's unsupported? Okay, let's see if the next experience. Okay, so you have to trust me. This actually works. Probably something I ran this just before the demo. I have no idea what's going on here, but maybe we'll go back to this and solve it in a second. I don't want to waste your time too much. Here, just creating a prompt that will function. Sorry, that will stream it nicely in paragraph, and then you can see this next bit where it's a very similar thing, but and the only thing I'm doing now, except from using the new function, is actually I'm improving the prompt a bit. So I have a section of guidelines now, and I'm writing down just the guidelines for the horoscope instead of just giving a paragraph. It's also usually improving the output. So you can see basically most of it the same, except I wrote I want it to be funny and sarcastic and personalized to the role. Use technical jargon, keep it lighthearted. I just something very very little, and I can see the output prompt. I'm not sure what's going on here now, but I'll show you the prompt that was
Or
executed just before.
I'm just letting you know there are some comments in the chat. Not sure it's related, but some
Yeah.
suggestion why
Ah, of
the.
course. Yeah, it's
So I can share with you a few
tell me what
suggestions.
I'm doing wrong. I'm in a live demo, so it's I
So
cannot say
maybe it's
I'm
the space that you have between the prompt and LLM.
this one, but it's between the prompt and the LLM. What do you mean?
There is maybe you have an extra. I think there was, yeah, bracket in the system prompt. There was another suggestion.
Extra bracket in the system. Ah, this one. Ah, okay. I write it for just like during the demo. Okay, yeah, nice. Okay, thank you, Pat.
Okay.
You get a point for something.
Yes,
Thank you very
same
much. Yeah,
one.
yeah.
It's
Okay. So probably when I was like going through the lines, I added that, and I couldn't see it because I was live demo. I had live demo blindness. So let's run it just to see like the output of this prompt, and then compare it. Thank you, Maria, and thank you, Pat. And look again the time it takes for the for the prompt to start. It was about 10 seconds. Okay. You're a tech genius, and your life is filled with with code and wires. Your nerdoscope reading should be tailored to your specific goal. This is, you can see, this is a bit of nonsense, because our prompt is not yet excellent, which is we'll cover in a second. Here's one. Your journey into the coding world is like exploring a vast and mysterious land of full opportunities for innovation and discovery. Be bold and adventurous, and don't be afraid to take risks and try new things. So we're all really inspired by these. I'm obviously not a tech genius because I missed the brackets, right? So it's funny, but I want to show you something very, very cool that happened here. Look at this part, okay? Your nerdoscope reading should be tailored to your specific goal. Of course, this is not what I was aiming, right? But I didn't invest a lot of effort into the prompt. All I did was just giving, just like writing instructions off the bat, and this stuff would likely happen, right? Maybe not all the time, but will definitely happen. And this is why exactly my next section was actually working just on the prompt. So here, the only difference we did, I remind you, is just going through the system prompt and a bit adjusting it, making it a bit easier for us to follow. And usually, like the rule of thumb here is if it's simple enough for human to follow, for you to follow, it may be simple enough for the LLM to follow. This is just a rule of thumb, but usually simple and specific tasks are better for LLMs. So I'm just trying to I split it down to the guidelines. I already covered them before, and let's see the output here. So, well, looks like another week has flown by. As a software developer, here's your personal Nerdoscope message for the week. Hi there, I see you're feeling a bit stressed out over the project deadline, but don't worry, my tech skills can help you out. Just remember, code doesn't lie, and it will always find the problem. Cheers to another week of coding. And then a very random hashtag, DevOps goals. Okay, I hope you're all having as fun as I am. So this is much better, right? You can see it's a similar comment. It smells similarly to what we like the previous highlight that I showed in the previous cell, but here it's actually phrased in a way that makes sense as a user, right? As a software developer, here's your personalized Nerdoscope message for the week. Much, much better, right? Except this very weird hashtag, but okay, we can work on that as well. Okay, so we got to see a bit of LangChain. We got to see Olama in action. And let me just do this, and I hope I don't break anything, anything else. Okay, so I'm still using this Olama. I can even just comment down to double make sure. And let's see what I did in this. Here, I just want to make it a bit more complex to actually show the power of LangChain. So I create this nerdoscope, which is basically a fancy class that inherits from base model, and this is a pedantic class, right? So it's you can see that if you don't know pedantic, you can see it's just defining a data class a bit more informative with this field role. So reading is what we did so far, underscore reading for the role. Then we have bugs, which I declare it's an integer, and it's the number of bugs that the user will encounter in the upcoming week. And then a similar case for coffee cups. So I want the nerdoscope not only to give me a reading, but also tell me the bugs and coffee cups that I will have, predict the bugs and coffee cups I will have in the week. And then I'm using a pedantic parser. We talked about it a bit before. We could have also used a JSON, but then we have to parse JSON for the pedantic object from the JSON. Here I'm getting that for free. So I'm just declaring that this is a nerdoscope pedantic object. This is the contract I want the parser to follow. And I don't want this for now. And that's it. And now we'll see a different way to define a template, a prompt template. So I'm creating the template here. You can see it. I'm just saying this is the system prompt, same as before, format instruction in a second, and the role that the user will give me. And then you can see input variable. I'm telling him, wait for the role. The role will come as before in a later trigger. But I want you to already populate partial variables, which is the system prompt, and I'm also given the instructions for the parser. So this is really cool. What happens here behind the scenes is that actually LangChain, or specifically the pedantic output parser, now writes down to the prompt. It injects into the prompt, and it's not magic, right? It's happening right here. So you can print this out and see the instructions, but I don't want to waste time on that. But it will just show a different. It will just showcase, um, explain the model inside the prompt, what it expects as an output, right? So it expects this reading, bugs, and coffee cups, and it can also explain what each means. And remember, we didn't even change the prompt, right? The system prompt is exactly the same as before, and now the new chain is a very similar chain, same prompt, LLM, and parser, like the same piping structure, except the prompt is this new prompt, which is a different type, but it works with the same syntax. LLM is the same one as before, and the parser now is something that will process the output. And this is again a chain, and that's it. We're gonna invoke it with the syntax, and now I'm not gonna stream it because it's not text. It will actually output now a nerdoscope object, and then I'll just print it nicely, ta ta ta, and you can see below it works. But let's run it online so you will believe me, because it won't work actually, and I'll show why in a second. So now let's give it like 15 seconds, and it won't work, and I'll then stop it, and you'll have to believe me that it will not end up in anytime soon. And why is that? Okay, why is that? Because I'm using the Olama model, Orca Mini 3 billion, running on my weak dev machine in CPU mode. So everything is going very horrible for this model to succeed. It has no chance to really succeed with this more complex task, because now the prompt is more complex than before. So now I'm gonna say, okay, let's use Azure OpenAI instead, right? So I'm gonna use Azure OpenAI. It's a model I'm hosting in Azure. This is the API version. This is the model. It's GPT 3.5 Turbo, and that will now run on the cloud. But I want to emphasize, just before I execute it, see this. This is a new LLM. Everything else is exactly the same, right? I'm inserting it here exactly the same, in the same manner. So it's very easy to plug and play models like I showed you before. And now let's run this. Boom, amazing. Actually, it usually goes faster than 7 seconds, but 7 seconds is still nice without any optimizations that I'm doing here. So you can see everything works. It predicted 7 bugs, 20 coffee cups. Actually, for me, it's a bit more like 50, I think, per week, but still. And then we have this horoscope. And the amazing thing I want to stress out here is that this is exactly the same prompt as before, right? I didn't tell the prompt you need to break down your answer into 3 different attributes. You need them to be in a JSON manner, in a JSON structure, so I can parse them. No, LangChain took that away from me, like did that for me, and using this pedantic output parser. Now, I hope that one other thing would fail, but it didn't, which is it's indeterministic, right? This is like the natural of the LLMs, and sometimes it can fail, even though people at the LangChain community did really awesome job in creating this pedantic output parser and the formatting instructions. But an LLM can still fail. Maybe GPT 3.5 is really great at it, but maybe GPT 3, and we had some failures with GPT 3 back in the day with parsing. Sometimes it would forget about a variable, yeah, like didn't output one variable, one attribute, sorry, or stuff like that. And for that, you can also use other parsers as well. So one parser that I want to show here very quickly is output fixing parser, which is actually another parser. It's wrapping the internal parser that we use, the pedantic neurodosop parser that we are using. And it uses an LLM. It doesn't have to be the same LLM, but it can, to actually restructure the output in order to fit the nerdoscope. So if something can be automated, like in a rule of thumb by pedantic output parser, this will have a bit more smarts and actually be able to structure the output differently. They also have a lot of different parsers. They also have a retry parser, but this is just like simple stuff for this demo. Okay, so we saw everything I wanted to show in the demo. I will now switch to the last slides that I have and give you another chance to ask a few questions. So maybe Moria, if you want, we can take like 1 or 2 questions, if there are any. So either no questions or no Moria. Okay, so I'll move over to the deck, and we can continue from there and keep your questions until the end of the session. I'll take as much as possible. Okie dokie. So we have a few last slides which I want to give you some more stuff you can use to your journey of hacking your first application using LLMs. So first of all, I showed you how simple it is. At least I hope you saw how simple it is. We did nothing fancy, or basically we did nothing coding wise. We did nothing fancy, but I think application wise we did something very fancy, right? It's very cool. Okay, so I want to show you this really great diagram I found online, showcasing that the stack of creating an LLM based app can be complex. We host a lot of them in the cloud for our different products, and we have like architecture. The architecture can become complex. Of course, our goal as engineers is to simplify things, but some stuff we really need to address. So you may have vector databases if you're using retrievals. I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, but I'm trying. Um, you may need the LLM caching abilities. You may need logging to observe into the prompt input and output, so you can see if something behaves differently than you expect in production. Um, you may need some validations, right? This is we'll cover in the next slide much more. Uh, you may need to adjust your providers because of cost, because of latency, etc. So there are a lot of different parameters on top of existing hosting an application, right? Like on top of the existing complexity of hosting a production, a prod grade application, there's some LLM dedicated stack. Okay, Now I want to cover very shortly responsible AI. So in Microsoft, we really care about this. This is one of the very important milestones that we have when we are releasing LLM-based or any AI, basically. Those are 6 pillars, and there are online, there are a lot of cases you can see where something went very bad, horribly bad with AI, and it changed people's lives in a negative way. I think I just saw a few days ago an old article about a very famous company that had a recruiting AI, and it rumored to be it wasn't. They didn't approve this news, but it was covered by The Verge and BBC and other very well-known articles or newsletters, and they said that the recruiting AI had a very strong bias against women, and it caused their the recruiting to have a strong bias against men. And after some time they took it down completely and went back to their old process. And so you can see that, of course, one of the pillars, the fairness, didn't happen there. So it's very important that when you're building AI in general, and specifically generative AI, which is even more sensitive, you need to be mindful of what you're doing if you're working in a production environment. Okay, so a few more, 3 last slides to equip you with some knowledge on your way. So models, on the right you can see OpenAI list of models, and it's even longer than that. You can see they have different variants, different context length. You can see 16K, 32K. So this is the amount of data we can put in and out from a model in a single interaction. And you can see in Hugging Face there is a lot of different categories and subcategories of models. For example, you can see in natural language processing, you even have a subclass of summarization models. Those are specific models that are optimized, trained specifically to summarize text. So it's amazing. Look around, try it out yourself. It's like a playground for software engineers and data scientists. It's really nice. Okay, so choosing the right model, we don't have a lot of more time, and I want to maybe take some questions, so I'll do it very briefly. Um, I try to do an analogy of like a roller coaster trip. So when you need to choose the type of trip that you want, are you taking the whole family or just your partner? So basically, this is like choosing what's the a model that you need. Like, is it an NLP, computer vision, audio, or whatever? Then what's the task you want to do? Like if it's text generation, text to image, text to speech, what kind of task you need to solve? It's similar to look at what theme park do you want to go to, if it's a water park, if it's a roller coaster park, etc. Then response time. So if I'm on vacation, I want to. Is it a 1 day, 2 hour drop to a roller coaster park, or or I'm gonna visit like 2 days in a Disney theme park with like sleepover, etc. So do I need a near real time experience, interactive experience, asynchronous experience in my application? Then resources, right? Everything is money, money, money. What's my budget and what's my hardware to allow this experience? So I need to always address that when I'm picking the right model, because some of them are require more resources or served using like a service that charges money, of course. Then documentation. Some models come with great documentation. They talk about the train sets. They talk about specification, if there's specific use for, let's say, summarization, like I mentioned before. So is it important for me, or am I okay with just trying it out myself? Depends on the context. Then brand. So sometimes you need a specific. You need to work with a specific brand because your company is already invested in that brand. Technically, business wise, doesn't matter. Or you don't trust specific brand because you don't trust it privacy wise with your company data, with your user data. It's also very important. Or you're going completely different route of open source community based models. That is also like a type of brand, right? So this is like very quick, 6 very quick things you can think of when you're choosing the right model. Most importantly, like I said before, try it on for size before you go. Don't just keep it theoretical. Try it out, play with it like we did just now with the notebook. Lastly, this is the last slide. I wanted to go down and compare the different libraries, semantic kernel and LangChain, according to what we saw until now, but we actually already covered it in the question, so I'll just recap. So different languages they support, different concept they use in the library, and different community, obviously. Um, and of course different maturity. Each library at every step it's a different maturity level, and you need to make sure every, like the whole set, the whole four stuff that I said, fits your agenda, fits your current context when you're building an app. Some things you care about when you're building production app at scale. Something you care about when you're hacking stuff and you're just figuring out stuff as you go along. So everything needs to fit at the right timing for you. And also there's this kind of personal taste as developers. So I encourage you to try both if you're using Python, and uh, if not, then you don't have really an option between these two, but you can also experience with other libraries out there. But these are the two most common ones. That's it. So thank you for listening. I had a great time. I had a lot of fun. I equipped you with like 7 links, sorry, here to get you started. I want to say something I didn't mention here, but it's very if you're using Azure OpenAI has super amazing documentation, a lot of quick start. It really helps get going. They did amazing job there on top of the OpenAI studio that I showed before. Go to this prompt engineering guide. It's really awesome. Tons of knowledge there to improve your prompt, and it's a big part of working with LLMs. Okay, so thanks everyone. I'll stick around if we have some time for questions, Maria. And
Yes, we do have some questions. Thank you, Ori. That was a really great session, and we got really great feedbacks on the demo as well. So we have some questions. I'll start from the end. Do you have? I'll share it here so it will be easier for you to follow. Do you have the demo notebook in GitHub or a repository or something?
So,
Then there was
Nijin, I hope
another
I'm
question.
pronouncing it correctly. Of course, everything here I'm gonna share through Moria and a link to GitHub to a GitHub repo just for this. I won't leave you hanging, and you can also feel free to reach out. But yes, everything, including these links, will be in the repository. Also, in the repository, I have this notebook that I just showed you, but also I have this like CLI application I built on top of that, where you can just write down your role and then get from the CLI app like the Nerdoscope object that we showed you um, to get you started. I see any reference to docs to get started on generative AI application building part from
That
official.
was just a continuance of the
Yeah.
first question. Yeah, and we will share the repository after that. You will get an email after the event, and we will share all the resources and the repository that Ori will share. This is the next question.
Okay, so a great question. I'll repeat it just in case you can't read it in if you're using like a small screen. So what's the advice on self-hosting LLMs, acquiring, maintaining hardware and servers? When does it become worthwhile, and what are the considerations? So I'll give my 2 cents about it because of course it's a completely uh, big topic by its own. I'll give just my 2 cents. So I think this is the whole promise of the cloud in general, not just about LLMs. Of course, that you want to scale as you go, and you want to offload this responsibility to someone else to do it for you. And I think this is two very key attributes into bootstrapping, or not bootstrapping, sorry, to kickstarting your work. You don't want to, maybe specific use cases, yes, which I'll cover in second, but in most cases that at least I know, and I'm also like helping startup in their journey. So most cases that I see are cases where you would like to offload as many stuff as you can, and managing infrastructure in general, and specifically LLM infrastructure especially, you would want to offload them. I did give whole llama and Hugging Face here because I think it's important that you also have a way to easily experience it locally in your device without any issues. Maybe you would also want to use it in some integration test or something like that. So we want everything to maybe keep it simple for some development scenarios. But in general, I would say it's very complex, and it's a very complex journey in terms of money and resources and focus of the company to do it on your own. But some use cases, some business use cases may require you to do that, right? So if you need to do something very specific, if this is your business, then do it. Maybe this is my short answer is, if this is your business, you should do it. If this is not your business, leave it to the cloud and focus on your business. And this is what I would say. um, I would also say that if you need to train models, it's also can be done on the cloud. So Azure, for example, have a way to you to fine tune an existing model for your purposes, and then they host your model for you. So it's very simple. You don't even need to do training flows uh, on your own. So if this is not your core business, leave it to someone else and focus on you. This is just
Okay.
my 2 cents. Yes.
Yeah. um, we had a question at the beginning, so I didn't forget about it, Yuval. Is there a way to get help from AI to generate math tests for students based on past tests and in Hebrew? Is it
Okay.
something that you, yeah.
Okay. So interesting. So first, it's roughly in my domain, like education. So I'm happy to take that. Um, it's important. One thing it's really important to know about LLMs. They are not really good about math. They're not really good about counting. They're not really good about doing some operations. There is a lot of research in this domain. One way some models tackle it, or some applications tackle it, is they are good at generating code and understanding tasks. So sometimes you would see, if you ask in some application, you would ask a math question, you can see whether you have the transparency about it or not, depends on the application. But one approach to solve it would be to ask the LLM to generate code that will compute your math question, and then it will run this code and then give you the answer. This is one approach that was very successful in actually solving math. Um, some other models, when they like become more complex, they actually they can do some math. And also, if you remember, I told you about setting the scene. There's a lot of like online examples where when you set the scene as a math expert, you say to the LLM, you are a math expert. You're really good at solving X and Y and Z problems, and then you give it a problem that is also sometimes work. And also another example, another prompt engineering technique is called chain of thought. So if you know, like the basic questions like, Ori had 5 apples, Adam took 2 apples away, how many apples Ori has now, something like that. So if you give an example of to the model how to solve these kind of questions, to like a chain of thought, like take he had 5, then someone took 2 away from him, now he's left with with 3, then someone gave him another apple, then he has 4. So you can guide him into like what's the process of thinking out the problem. It's also a way they can solve math problems. So all of this was just an introduction to say that math is not the expertise of existing like off the shelf models, and it's a problem highly researched. So I would say, if you do that, if this is your business, or this is like something you want to do, you should be mindful about this. It's a bit complex, and you need to look at research that's specifically about math and LLMs. There's like a lot of tools. I just mentioned, I think, two techniques that are used here. But you may want to see other techniques, or maybe specific models that are better at logic and problem solving, like mathematical logic and mathematical problem solving.
Okay. I think we had trying to quickly see. There was this question from Sean Wolf, but I'm not sure if we answered that before already or not. Or we.
Okay, so the question is, we didn't answer it. Does CUDA on Windows make it a lot quicker? So I assume you refer to running Olama, I think. So you can run Olama on GPU as well. and then it will be quicker. It doesn't. I'm not necessarily talking about Windows and CUDA, but of course there are some hardware setups that will speed up local LLMs. I'm trying to make this question a bit more general. Definitely, you can use a stronger machine. By the way, they also use a lot of RAM. So if you have if you have better RAM, a more quality RAM, and also run it on GPUs, then you'll get much better performance than you saw now. I'm just running it on a CPU on a commodity dev device. It's nothing special. This is probably the weakest the weakest setup I can do for this for LLMs.
Okay, I think it was a great session and great questions. I don't see any other questions. If you do have questions, we have a couple of more minutes. I also have some opportunities to share, but feel free to post them. And if not, you can contact us after the event. I think we'll, yeah, wrap it up. I mean, wow, Ori, you've been talking for a lot, and that was really a great session. You can look at the chat and great feedbacks from great feedback from everyone.
So I
Um,
can't see the chat, but I'll just say thanks everyone
yeah.
for listening. Had a pleasure. I'll see the chat afterwards, and I'll send you the repository, like I said before, so you can follow up.
Before we wrap up, so Ori, I will let you go, and I will just share a few opportunities also from our end. Thank you so much, Ori.
Thank you, Maria.
Um, So a few opportunities for you to learn. The first one I wanted to share is build intelligent apps. You can visit this website, aka.ms intelligent apps, to get resources to help you build intelligent apps if this is something that is relevant for you. So feel free to check this website and get more opportunities. There are also some employees from Microsoft partners here. So if you are working for Microsoft account, you can reach your Microsoft representative about different training days that we offer for you. So if you're part of the SEMA region, we have many virtual days, training days online that you can attend. Here is an example for the March schedule. So do contact your Microsoft representative and then get access to the training days that you are able to attend. Another opportunity that open actually to everyone is the AI learning companion. If you visit, it's a bit small. I don't know if you see it. So aka.ms/pathways. It really gathers all the learning pathway that brings together all the multiple Microsoft resources that we have on the field of generative AI. And it looks really busy, but if you go to this website, you will see it's actually organized in different topics. So I'll share a few examples here in the next slides. When you have the different topics and then all the resources organized, so it's similar to Microsoft Learn. It's the same resources, but it just structure and additional ones, but it's structured much easier if you're going through the technology and the topic and areas that you are interested in, for example, responsible AI, different Microsoft Learn connections, and so on. So again, it's aka.ms/pathways. And last but not least, we have the opportunity to skill up. I'm going to share the link here. If you scan this QR code, you will also be able to sign up and get some more opportunities to learn. So go ahead and scan this or click the link that's in the chat. Actually, that was not the last one. I wanted to share another opportunity for the entrepreneurs here and those interested in Founders Hub in Microsoft for Startups platform. So Founders Hub is gives allow you to get credits for your startup really from the idea stage. You can get from $1,000 credits and $150,000 credit, but definitely credit is not the only thing that you will get for your startups. If you have an idea, if you're thinking of opening a startup, do check Founders Hub, sign up. It offers you loads of benefits really on different stages of your startup. and from the very first stage of just having an idea. So I'm not going to name all the benefits because there are really a lot, but this platform offers a lot. So if you have a startup, if you are thinking of opening, and if you have an idea, do check Founders Hub of Microsoft for Startup, and you can scan the QR code or just look for Founders Hub on the internet. I think that's it from my end. I don't see that we have any other questions. Thank you all for joining us. The session is recorded again. It will be available just now after we close the session. That was the last session of the series. It was a great series of generative AI for software developers. We got great feedback from you, and that's why we actually decided to continue another season. So stay tuned. We are going to kick off the next season in May with new great speakers talking about different topics that relevant to you. We're going to promote, start advertising the series soon on the Reactor website. So yeah, we hope to see you then. Enjoy everyone and goodbye.